It's exactly that is 5 minutes past 9. Smart means business, and of course, we are driving you through all the way with the right facts, which are quite very key and relevant when it comes to decision making as a CEO, and you could also be a small business owner in that disguise. But of course, still to remind you that all these conversations on this show are powered by Zabu. This is a platform from Altex which has made your trading experience much more easy and friendly. Now, the markets on this platform open at 8:15 a.m. and they run up to 3:15 p.m. Now, here you availed an opportunity to be in position to actually buy government bond securities for a fee of 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Yes, 15,000. So these markets run Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends and the public holidays. When these markets cannot be accessed, of course, they're having a race like Independence Day. Definitely, they won't be active. So Zaba made this a reality for you. It's an opportunity, and you could be looking for where to invest your money. You're tired of scammers. Quite so many people come up with different scams all over the city. But now Zab is here, very genuine. You can make money. And that's why he tells you that it's my money, it's my future. And Altex East Africa tells you that you need to do something new for yourself. Remember, it is 2023. Well, now, of course, as we get back into our point of discussion in here about interest rates and inflation in some sort of a way, of course, we have to take it back in time and see how inflation has actually been like for this country, Uganda. Because I understand there are those times, for example, starting on the 2019, some people call it the last year we really experienced freedom to the maximum and all that. So what you're looking at there is the analysis of the trends, at least for the past 5 years. And now the inflation and interest rate trends in Uganda, that is over the past few years. According to that, we see that they have been quite a little bit volatile with significant swings in both directions. And of course, for the sake of inflation, we see that inflation started at decade at 4.7%. That is in 2019. But fell to 2.2% in 2021.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
In 2021.
2021.
COVID.
But, however, inflation surged to about still 7.9.
Wow, that was
in 2022.
That is a lot.
Yeah, that was quite a lot, actually. That was quite a lot.
Yeah, actually 2022 was a strange year. Things were more expensive compared to this year.
Of course, majority of the businesses were trying to recover, and from the COVID effects, first of all, and actually up to now they're still recovering. They've not entirely recovered from the effects, but then, and some of the ways was to hike in the prices a bit, and I think that's even the year where we had the fuel prices increase. The price of wheat became expensive because Ukraine.
Wheat, cooking oil.
Cooking oil.
Yeah, the war in Ukraine.
Because Ukraine is one of the leading exporters of wheat, and so there was a reduction in supply, but even fuel and all that, so many.
I would actually say 2021 was a good year for most people. Things were really affordable. People ate to their maximum. Yes.
Very true.
If you didn't spend quite, because people would buy in bulk, bags and bags, stock, because it was the period of COVID, people were in lockdown, and things were quite affordable. Coming to 2022, the war in Ukraine did us a disservice. Everything was high.
Absolutely.
Cooking oil was from 5,000, it doubled to 10,000 a liter. Imagine, flour, chapatis were now reduced in size.
Exactly. Actually, it was really a horrible experience, and I think for the people that spend on chapatis, that's the time when we started seeing chapatis of 1,500. Disappeared slowly by slowly. But anyway, you can see how global rates can actually influence even you, your daily customer, even you, a person that buys a chapati or a Rolex. You can get affected in the quantity you've been consuming at the end of the day. Now we see that inflation. We saw that it started at 4.7 in 2019, and of course we've seen the war of Ukraine, but we see that inflation surged to about 7.9% in 2022 before declining to 3.5. That is in 2023. Now, this volatility in inflation can be attributed to quite a number factors, including COVID-19, definitely, and the war in Ukraine and the rising global inflation. There is also that factor. Now, for the interest rates, they started a decade at 10%, that is in 2019, and they remained relatively steady in 2020, and that is at about 8%. However, interest rates fell to 7% in 2021. There was a decline now before rising to 12%. one very crazy hike in that way. Before rising to 12% in 2022. Actually, I remember by then the central bank rate was at about 10%. 10 basis points. Now we see that. Now we need to understand, by the look of this, by the look of those figures, what do they mean when it comes to expenditure? I mean, when it comes to consumer behaviors, interest rates in 2023, interest rates have fallen to actually back to 10%. Of course, according to a report here, there was a rising to 12% in 2022, and in 2023 they fell back. So a reduction of 2% from 2022 to 2023, and that is quite positive. Now, the fluctuations in interest rates are largely due to the central banks. The Central Bank of Ughanda's efforts to manage that is inflation. Of course, later on we shall look at that later, how inflation relates with interest rates. Yeah, we are still analyzing the inflation trends in here. That we see that the fluctuations in interest rates are largely due to the central bank's efforts, like I said, to manage inflation. Now, when inflation is high, the central bank definitely raises interest rates in order to make borrowing more expensive and discourage spending. Now, when inflation is low, the central bank, of course, lowers the interest rates in order to make borrowing more affordable and stimulate spending. Now, what does this trend mean? That trends that we're looking at. Now, the volatility in inflation and interest rate trends in Uganda suggests that the economy is facing a number of challenges. That is, first of all, key. The COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and the rising global inflation have all contributed to the economic uncertainty and volatility, like you're seeing in those trends. Now, I also want to admit that the central bank's efforts to manage the inflation have also contributed to the volatility. Now, the central bank's involvement is also contributing to the volatility here in interest rates. And we see that the central bank has been raising and lowering interest rates in an attempt to keep the inflation under control. However, this has made it difficult for businesses and consumers to plan for the future. A case in point here is that businesses that rely on borrowing to finance the operations have been hit hard, by rising interest rates. This is because the high interest rates make it more expensive to borrow the money. That is key, And for the sake of consumers, now, because this is two ways, the businesses and the consumers have also been impacted by these interest rates. And we see that this is because the higher interest rates make it more expensive to borrow money for mortgages. But of course, mortgages are not yet so much in Uganda. Now, of course, here we can talk about car loans, and other related loans, house development loans, you want to construct a house and all that. So all this, the volatility is making it quite so hard. And we see that these trends are making it difficult for businesses and consumers to plan for the future and invest in the economy. Because the businesses and consumers need to plan. But now the volatility. And now we see that the government and the central bank need to work together to develop this to be much more stable and, create a much more favorable microeconomic environment, right? Yeah, we need really that to be. So you can really see, the central bank interest rates reduce on borrowing, and once because when borrowing reduces, that means there is going to be less money in what? In circulation. Because that's what the central bank is really fighting that. And we've actually seen this for the people that actually love doing forex trade. I was mentioning this. It reached a point, and I could see the Bank of England increases the interest rate to 10 basis points, 12 basis points. Same applies to their rivals, the Federal Reserve Bank. There was the Bank of Japan. The Bank of Austria. Quite so many interesting. But all now, these were factors in relation to the global inflation. And I remember the time when we had the Brexit, also the pound was really hit so hard as a result of that. Well, now talking about inflation and interest rates, we need to first of all understand that these two are actually related. Did you know that? Actually, they are related in some sort of a way. And definitely now that's what we're going to be looking at, as you can actually see there. You know, and this is actually quite very interesting if we can try to break down these matters much more further. Now, according to the display there, suppose that inflation is running at 5% per year. This means that prices of goods and services are increasing by 5%.
Yeah.
Each year.
The
right?
lower the lower the interest rate, the higher the inflation.
Exactly.
So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
so
because when the interest rate is low, that means there's going to be more borrowing.
More boring.
And
Yeah.
money is going to be circulating much. Now we see that still here, in order to combat this inflation, you know, like it's a step by step. Like we see, suppose that inflation is running at 5% per year. This means that the prices of goods and services are increasing 5% each year. Now, in order to combat this inflation, the central bank definitely raises the interest rates. This makes it more expensive for businesses to borrow money. That's what we've been saying. As a result, businesses and consumers start to spend less money. This reduces demand for goods and services, which helps to bring inflation down. See, that is the sense of how this really works. Now, if I'm to really still look at this, like we've seen that, let's say inflation is 5%, like we saw, the 5%, this means that the prices of goods are increasing at that particular time. That is quite very clear. We've seen it. Now, what does this really mean? Now, one of the best ways to explain the relationship between inflation and interest rates is, for example, we can use this analogy. That imagine that you're a shopkeeper and you sell about apples for 3,000 each day. That's about $1. That means one day you notice that the price of the apples has started to rise, and then you decide to raise the price of your apples to about $1.05. That's about from 3,000 to 5K. However, your customers are not happy about the price increase, so they start to buy fewer apples from you. As a result, you sell fewer apples and your profits actually start to fall. Now, this analogy really can illustrate to you that the rise in interest rates can actually lead to low economic activity. And when interest rates are high, it's actually more expensive for businesses and consumers to borrow money. And these can lead to them spending less money.
So they have to be at a favorable percentage.
Yeah, a favorable percentage in some sort of a way. It needs to really balance it up. Though still, there are moments when these interest rates go beyond. They become a little bit of exploitative. You know, it's one thing for you, you see, the funny thing about Uganda is that money can be in circulation a lot, but you wonder, in whose hands is it?
Obviously.
It's a few people. You see that? If the money in circulation is excess and it's evenly distributed, the rate of exploitation is less, because you're going to that means it's going to be easily accessible. But the challenge here is that money is in circulation, but it's circulating amongst, huge sums of money are in circulation, but through like 2% of individuals or 10% of individuals. That means there is going to be exploitation of those individuals for these other masses of populations that are desperate to at least touch a penny coming out of these few individuals. You see, that is exactly what we are trying to really break down here, as we are relating these particular aspects. So that's why the central bank comes in and has to make sure that there is ultimate regulation of these aspects, because it can be very, 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 very exploitative in some sort of a way. Yeah, and now that is how we can actually relate these two in terms of how one relates to the other, and money in circulation. And like we've been saying, it matters in whose hands is that money really circulating in.
I think that's what I would say for interest rates. I think when they're a bit higher, most people are reluctant to borrowing. Mostly, those people that are starting out, they're like, oh my goodness. So if I get 10 million loan and at the end of the day I have to pay 15, maybe with the interest is set in place. So someone is like, you know what, I think let me borrow from, these individuals. I think that is why most people are going in for money lenders. They lend them money. Instead
Actually, that is
like,
another effect in here.
My alternative is, let me go and ask Andrew for money, so that I could
we know the
dodge.
effects that come along with the money lenders.
Yeah.
Because
Those ones don't forgive, by the way.
Because Mercy, personally, I wouldn't mind, first of all, if I could get that loan at 12% interest rate. And the business that I'm going to invest in, because I know there is excess money in circulation, I mean, I'm expecting people to buy because people now have money. But now the challenge is, like we've been saying, that they don't have the money this time around. So you ask yourself, okay, if the money is excess in circulation, where is it?
That's the question.
So that means there is high interest rate. You're paying huge money on loans. And at the end of the day, your customer base is low because the people don't have the money. I mean, the business is going to close.
Of course, I mean, the money is with a few individuals.
Yeah, like we've been saying.
Very few individuals.
And those few individuals, probably the chances are high that they don't even purchase from the local suppliers.
Obviously.
Okay.
I mean, someone will have their money and they'll be like, let me go to quality supermarket and do my shopping. Yet there is this madam who, Mama Honey for something that sells tomatoes along the roadside, and they're like, nah. I think I prefer, going and spending,
Okay.
So that is how we've been affected over the years.
Money
is there, but we don't know who has the money. People are crying. We don't have the money. Who has the money? That's the question.
Who has the money? All right, that is quite a very key aspect to really ponder on. Could probably give you quite a number of answers when it comes to finding a solution. How can actually this be done? Well, that is it for our discussion for this particular time. It's 22 minutes past 9. This is What Means Business. I'm Andrew Barije here with Mercy Katsume, and definitely this is your daily Kickstarter on the Smart 24 TV. But of course, speaking about Smart 24 TV, you can always get these facts by following us on different handles, our Twitter handles at Smart 24 TV. For those of you that love being with gadgets, you can actually check out the Smart Digital application, and here you will be in position to actually you can watch the three. You can listen to NBS Radio, listen to Smart FM, and watch Smart 24 TV. Isn't that amazing? It's quite a huge package for you in there. Well, still to remind you that all these discussions are powered by Zabu, which is a platform from Altex, and this just made your trading experience much more easy and friendly. Zabu is actually made this a reality for you in case you're looking for where to put your money. The markets open at exactly 8:15 a.m. and they'll be running up to 3:15 p.m. That is the South African time, effective Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends and actually the public holidays when these markets cannot be accessed. But that's not the big deal in here unless you have the rest of the days to capitalize and make money, something which I believe it's quite important when it comes to your financial growth and development. So Zabu made this a reality for you. You can participate, and that's why it boldly tells you that it's my money, it's my future, and Altex East Africa tells you that you need to do something new for yourself. Remember, it is 2023. Well, of course, as we head into the break, when we return, we shall be taking a look at what's happening at the OMA. Yes, the Uganda Manufacturers Association initiative and trade fair that is happening. It's going to run for an entire week. Today has been the first day, and definitely we shall be taking a look at what is really happening in there. Stick around.